Hello, young fellows. I once heard that ghosts appeared with the same physical features with which they were buried. If the body was missing a limb, the ghost appeared without it. The following story is an example of this phenomenon. Prepare yourself, dim the lights, and join me on this journey into the realm of terror. I am a light rail worker in my city. I work in the cleaning department, and part of my job is to keep the cars clean. Lately, I, along with some of my colleagues, have had to face the challenges of the night shift due to the increased usage of the new light rail line. The night shift brings its own set of difficulties, but we are committed to our job and the safety of our passengers. Only a colleague and I were left at the Line 2 station. During the night shift, after completing our cleaning duties, we take the last run back to the city centre. We always ensure to travel together, even if one of us is still finishing her work. This practice not only enhances our safety, but also fosters a sense of camaraderie in our team. One rainy night, we finished very late, barely managed to get on the last run, and stayed at the back of the car as usual. We knew it would be a long journey. As it was the last run, there was almost nothing going up. The light rail operator, in line with our company's commitment to safety, did not go fast and took his time at each station in case someone barely arrived to take it, ensuring a safe and comfortable journey for all. It was a typical evening commute, just like any other day after work. My friend, visibly exhausted, decided to head home for some much-needed rest. Seizing the opportunity of a relatively empty train, I reclined and stretched my legs across the vacant seats. Everything went smoothly. We arrived at the next station, where the light rail waited a few minutes. The warning bell rang before the train closed its doors and moved. As we pulled into the third station, I was already drifting into a light slumber. The doors slid open, and a woman stepped onto the train, positioning herself in the middle. Despite the abundance of empty seats, she chose to remain standing. My colleague and I didn't think much of it. The train would still be waiting for more passengers, and we could continue sleeping. However, I heard a strange noise, as if something was crawling. When I opened my eyes, I saw that woman who began to drag her left leg when she walked. It was her face that worried me a lot. I moved my companion's leg, who was almost asleep, and discreetly pointed out to the woman dragging her foot. We both looked at her strangely. That woman's face seemed to be deformed, her nose seemed crushed, her mouth was open as if she couldn't close it, and she was panting. She was dressed in a long black floral dress. She only had a shoe, and the foot she was dragging only had a scratched sock. My friend covered her mouth, shocked, because despite how far away we were, we could see how her face was disfigured. That woman was only watching us from the middle of the light rail car. The light rail closed its doors and began to move, and although the movement caused her to stagger, she did not fall. The woman slowly approached us. I looked more closely at her face, and I perceived that she was smiling at us, or so she was trying, because a series of grotesque noises began to come out of her mouth. It was as if she was trying to say something. I started to feel uncomfortable. I looked away from her because she began to scare me. I realized that my friend was still watching her. She didn't take her eyes off her, and that's when the sounds that woman made reminded me of a pig. It screamed horribly. I gave my friend a little blow on the leg while covering my ear with my other hand. It was as if she woke up from a trance. She blinked rapidly and looked at me. We finally arrived at the next station. The door opened next to the pig-faced woman, and she headed towards the exit, dragging her foot. We breathed deeply. The light rail closed its doors, and through the back window I watched as we left behind that woman who stood still while we lost sight of her. My friend and I laughed nervously. We talked about what had happened. It was as if we had seen something different. While I had seen her nose crushed, my partner told me that she saw a couple of fangs protruding from her mouth. We continued our way, and the doors opened when we reached the next station. That was when a terrifying scream was heard throughout the station. The lights began to flash. My partner and I knew well that the light rail without electricity was not moving further. The doors closed abruptly. We both remained silent. The light rail began to move as if nothing had happened. However, the lights continued to flash. The operator increased the speed. I thought he wanted to reach the central station. When we arrived at the next station and stopped, the doors opened again. My friend picked up her things and told me that she was already tired, that she would better take a taxi from there. And just when she was about to get off, the bell rang, warning that the doors were about to close and she had to sit down again. That's when a woman entered the train right next to us. It was the same woman with the face of a pig. The doors closed just after this woman entered. The light rail moved forward again, and the woman approached one of the seats next to us. I was terrified, so I sat next to my friend. We both saw that woman who was observing us. I could see her face better. It was like the snout of an animal. I could see her teeth coming out of her face. She began to make a horrible noise. We both covered our ears. I was already trembling. "Do you need something?" my friend asked her. The woman seemed to smile, but she did not answer us. At that moment we realized that we had reached the penultimate station. She took me by the hand and took us off the light rail as soon as it opened its doors. We left, scared away. I turned to see where that woman was. She was standing watching us while the light rail was still with the doors open. My friend pulled me, and after stumbling and falling, we got out of there. The warning bell rang, the doors closed, and the light rail moved forward with that woman still watching us. When leaving the station, we stopped the first taxi we saw. At my friend's house, we didn't know if what we had seen was real, and that's when I realized that I didn't have my backpack with me. My friend told me that tomorrow we would look for the backpack and ask the operator, who would do a final check. That's when we realized that maybe he would meet that woman. No matter how many times we called our colleague, no one answered. We hoped that nothing had happened to him and he would see us the next day. In the morning we quickly approached the operations center where we met the operator from the previous night. He had found my backpack in the last car, recognized it, and thought about bringing it to me, which is why he was also there. We decided to tell him what happened. At first we couldn't clarify our ideas and tell him, but he interrupted us as we told him the details. I think they found the woman who fell on the train tracks years ago. Unfortunately, the lady, while waiting for the light rail, lost her balance just when the train passed. Her face was utterly crushed, and her body was stuck. Between the train and the fence, I think he did not die instantly. A heartbreaking scream was heard. Her death was confirmed. She was a vagabond because no one claimed her body. "You didn't talk to her, did you?" My friend was stunned, and before I could say anything, she quickly responded, "No." "That's great. They say that if you ask her something, she will follow you until you take her place." My friend told me she keeps seeing and talking to her in dreams. When I close my eyes, I can see her before me. Somehow, I sense she asked us for help. Since then, we have tried to hurry through our night shift, and when we have to return on the last run of the light rail, we try to go into the cabin. I was still able to see her when we arrived at the station where that woman lost her life, waiting for the light rail. I could still see her face, which resembled that of a pig.